Welcome to NADN 2400. This is Tricia Shad, professor of the nursing program here at Washington State. So most of you I know, some of you I don't, so I look forward to working with all of you. We're going to start by looking at the syllabus and then also going through Canvas. So we're going to interject a little both of those as we go through this information today. So when you come to Canvas is a very user-friendly, seems to be a very easy system to be able to use. I know it's widely used in other schools. So Washington State has now upgraded to the learning management system. So what you see in front of you is the student view. And we're going to begin by, first of all, hopefully all of you have seen the announcements here and you went ahead and made sure you have net learning taken care of before Monday, as well as making sure that your CPR card is up to date. So we want to make sure we get that done first. That will take care of decreasing a little bit of the stress during that first week, just making sure you have that done and out of the way. So when you come to the site, you will see, start here. That's what we're going to do. We're going to get into the syllabus. So you can work your way through this start here menu, and you'll find that the syllabus as well as the outline are going to be the same. That's simply because in the associate degree nursing program, we do have we have everything all in one site. So we're going to start with the course syllabus. Okay. You can print this, and myself, I like to have hard copies of things, so I'm not sure how you like to work things, but it will, you have to know what's in the syllabus, know when things are due. So if it helps you to organize to print that, that would be my suggestion. So the key to online courses is organization and making sure that you are completing things in a timely manner. Okay. So just as we always do in all of our courses, we do go over the syllabus and pretty much in detail, simply because we want to make sure that you are clear what is the contract between you and the instructor as to what is going to happen during that semester. So we want to make sure that is very clear what is going to be expected. So when we look at the course, it's NADN 2400, applying the nursing process to groups of clients. You'll see the instructors that are here. The one that will be added as well is Darla Boone. So that was a recent change. So that you would can anticipate you may have Darla in clinical as well. So she's going to have a couple of people as following a couple people in preceptorship as well. The most current syllabus is revised January of 2021, so it was recently revised, so just make sure this is the one that you have. We had a previous one, but there were some changes that we wanted to make sure that, I just want to make sure that everyone is clear. So as the description, the course is designed to assist the associate degree nursing student in developing a theoretical foundation for the professional practice of nursing. This course will enhance the student's ability to refine clinical and leadership skills, as well as develop patient management skills for multiple clients in a real-world setting. The focus of the course is on discovering, discussing, and writing about issues and trends which affect nursing practice. The scope of nursing practice, laws which govern nursing, ethical considerations, and managerial concepts will be explored. This course will also prepare you for the NCLEX RN exam. Okay, so this course is a bit different from the past classes that you've taken. The clinical will allow you to, again, take care of a group of patients. Depending on what kind of unit that you're on, it's going to be different for each student. But so, for example, it will be 1 to 2 patients there versus on a med-surg unit where you may have 6 to 7 or more, depending on what unit you're working on. Sometimes the amount of students or patients that are allowed per assignment is based on the acuity. So that will be very individualized. So keep that in mind as we're going through, that there may be something that's different for one student versus the other. So the main concern is that you stay concerned with what you are doing, not with what everyone else is doing. The course the course textbooks, Catalano 2020, it's the 8th edition. And also making sure that you have your student handbook. Essential for you to know what's in that student handbook. Everyone has read it and has signed that you have read it. Now you need to make sure that you review it, know it, and apply it. Course objectives. We are going to differentiate the historical, current, and future trends in nursing, analyze legal and regulatory requirements for the practice of nursing, assess ethical dilemmas facing them, the processes for resolving those, discuss nurses, the nurse's professional responsibility for lifelong learning. So when you complete this nursing program, we're going to have you at base level here, but nursing and also healthcare it's always changing. So you're going to have to continue to learn as you get out of school. So just keep that in mind. We want to make sure that our future nurses know that the most current knowledge is necessary for taking good care of our patients. Examine one's power to affect change in the healthcare system, integrate clinical judgment utilizing evidence-based practice and providing nursing care to groups of clients. Again, evidence-based practice drives the care that we provide our patients. Compose a comprehensive scholarly paper addressing a trend or global issue currently affecting nursing practice. Utilize the internet to cite literature sources for the required paper. Complete computer-based RN comprehensive predictor exam, and participate in the comprehensive customized live NCLEX review course. What that means by being customized is ATI uses the very first comprehensive predictor that you will take, which will be right after spring break, and they will customize the course in which they provide, which we have at the end of the course. So we're talking about some details here. Assignments, you can look at those goals here. The assignments, comprehensive trends and issues paper. So I have some details that I'll share with you as we go through the syllabus, but for now, the student will write a trends and issues paper. It must address a trend or a global issue that is currently affecting nursing practice or an issue that will affect nursing practice in the near future. I will provide a list of potential topics. The key here, number one, it's worth 75 points. So this is not an assignment that you want to wait on. It's not an assignment that you do not you did not put the effort into this paper. So I cannot stress enough how important this assignment is to the completion of the course. Late assignments, of course. Late assignments, anytime that you're late with an assignment, 10% is lost. Please plan for this paper. Losing points because you are turning it in late is really, at this point in the game, you shouldn't be at that point. You really need to be organized and well prepared. Okay, so that's 10% loss per day for that assignment. So just keep that in mind. Make sure that you're planning. The papers are written in APA, using the APA guidelines. It's highly recommended to use the Center for Student Success. I know that you guys have not written a paper for our faculty. So in years past, you've done more papers. So therefore you're a little more prepared for writing this paper. So again, this is going to be imperative that you make sure that if you're not good at writing papers, that you seek help early on this assignment. So guidelines in the rubric are included in the syllabus, and we'll talk about all of that in detail as we get to those papers. You will be submitting the draft and the final paper to turn it in. I'm trying to figure that out yet. I have one, just want to verify more than anything that it's going to work correctly. So with Canvas, I just want to make sure that it's verified and that we don't have any issues with that. So the key here is with that draft, it is not submitted to the Turnitin, because what will happen is if it's in the database, when you go to fill out or complete that final assignment, it will recognize it as 100% plagiarized, even though it's your paper. So we want to make sure we have all of that clear before any submissions are, I just have to verify it myself. I just want to make sure things are working correctly. That link will be in the assignment. I know that. I do have final submission set up correctly as well. So that's on my list of to-dos. Exams, there's going to be 4 exams. Last year there was 2 exams. There are now 4 exams. I've broken into smaller groups. Therefore, the content, you have less content to cover on each of those. There's also less questions. Basically, it's the test in half. Last year was worth 75 points each. So now it's just half of that in smaller increments to help students to hone in on the information and not feel as overwhelmed. You'll notice that what is on those exams are multiple choice, alternative style, fill in the blank questions. It's based on your material that was presented in class and your reading assignments, and it can have some math questions on it as well. You will notice that there is no final exam for this course. So once you have shown that you've mastered that information through testing and met those objectives, we do not go back and address that again. There is additional assignments in this, or additional things that we need to complete in this course, and time does not allow for us to have a final exam with that as well. Plus, we're already proving that we're meeting objectives through the 4 exams that you will have. The NCLEX question review and journal entry. To prepare you for the NCLEX RN exam, students are required to complete a minimum of 20 or more NCLEX style questions daily. So what this means, students, you can use state board review books or appropriate online resources, and you will track those questions. In order to keep this as much online as possible and to make this an easy process, I will be setting up, and actually the first one is set up. However, I haven't made that available to you yet, but once the assignment is available, you will be able to go in. So on a weekly basis, you're going to do 20 questions a day. You will go in under quizzes, and under quizzes, there should be a survey for each week. So by the following week, so if we start Monday, the following Monday, you will have to have 20 questions. Completed daily. And you will submit that survey. So basically, you're going to find out whether we just want you to fill out that survey and answer the questions accordingly. Okay, that will help track it. So that way we're not signing off on it. It will be proof that you've done it. It will go into the actual online course. This is a course requirement that must be met in order to be successful in the course completion. The assignment does not have any points set or assigned to it. However, it is a requirement, and for course objectives, for you to meet those course objectives satisfactorily. An unsatisfactory grade on this assignment will be reported as a D on the final course grade. Okay, so it will be due by 10 a.m. every Monday. Okay. The comprehensive predictor. So all students have to attend 2 of the national standardized assessment exams. You're going to see the course outline for dates and times. This is a course requirement, must be completed on the day that it's assigned. The comprehensive predictor determines a percentage of probability for passing the NCLEX RN exam. ATI, they use that adjusted score. And so you're used to seeing adjusted individual scores. What ATI does is they use that adjusted score and they predict a probability for passing the NCLEX RN. So it's going to look a little different than what you've taken in the past. They have a lot more questions on it as well. And then the points will be based on the average of 2 exams. The reason we do this is because if you would do very well on the very first comprehensive predictor and you got a 98% chance of passing boards, that's directly after the spring break. We don't want you to stop studying. We don't want you to stop working toward it. So we want you to do well on the first one as well as the second exam. So we take an average score of both of those, and that's how you receive the points for the course. Okay, so if you look, oh, I probably should just start doing this. What am I doing? Here we go. I thought I lost track here. The following, if you look at the how the points are scored, it's based on percentage. So 98 to 100%, you're going to receive 75 points. I feel if you get into that range, you should get all of the points. And then it deducts as your probability for passing boards goes down, so do the points that you get for the course. So again, remember, this is for an average. Between the 2 is how you will get your points. So following that first exam, you're going to be required to complete 3 critical points for each topic that was missed on the proctored exam and 1 hour of focused online remediation. This is what you've done thus far. So this should not be anything that's new to you. It should be very clear as to how this is done. If you have questions, you have to just let me know. Students are required to print the transcript and attach it to the critical points, and it's due on the first day of the customized live review. So I've given you ample time to be able to do this remediation. My goal for you is to not just do the assignment, but to make that assignment count. So that's why I've made it such a long time between that first exam and when your remediation is due. Now you can turn it in prior to that. It's fine to do that, but I want to make sure that everyone has ample time and they're not just doing time, but they're actually remediating. The assignment does not have any points that are assigned to it. It is a requirement for the course to be satisfactory, and you know the unsatisfactory grades are reported as a D in the final course grade. So not something we want. We just want to make sure that we are moving you forward for success. That is the goal for us and for you. Our goal for you is success. So customized live NCLEX review, all students are required by ATI. It's a 3-day course. It will be held on campus at Washington State. That is the plan as of now. Last year, it ended up being online because that was what was required because of COVID. So my plan is to have it on campus. You must attend all 3 days for you to be successful in completing the NCLEX or completing NADN 2400. So it is a course requirement that you attend all 3 days of this live review. So if you work, if you have family where you need to make arrangements, you have these dates already in your calendar, please plan to be there. Okay. Students completing the customized live NCLEX review course have an NCLEX RN pass rate of 97%. So we are making sure that you have the right tools to be successful. Virtual coach. So virtual ATA. So all students scoring less than 94% predictability for passing their boards on their second. So this would be after you've taken the live review, you're testing again, you're less than 94%, then you must enroll and pay for the virtual ATI. It is about $500. Okay, so when you're required to take the virtual ATI, that's not only the less than 94%. There are additional people who will need to take virtual ATI, and I'll explain that here shortly. When required to take the virtual ATI, and I can tell you, it's very expensive to take the boards as well. You have to apply. You have to apply for taking the exam. You have to apply for your boards. Apply with the Board of Nursing. So there is a lot of money that's already put out. So getting you as prepared as possible and out into the workforce is a big portion of being successful. So this virtual ATI, yes, it's $500, but it's very expensive to then retake your exam as well as keeping you from getting started into your job and starting to make money. So know that we are doing this in your best interest to make sure that you are successful on your first attempt at taking the NCLEX RN. So when you're required to take the virtual ATI, it's essential that the students complete the virtual ATI curriculum and receive the green light prior to taking the NCLEX RN. So they will give you a green light, and the anticipation is that you will take your boards within, or take that NCLEX RN within 2 weeks of getting the green light. Virtual ATI will provide a formalized plan and a personal coach that help you to receive that green light. The green light indicates that the student has met the criteria and is prepared to take the NCLEX RN. Virtual ATI is required for any student who has re-entered the ADN program or has received a level 1 on the proctored ATI exam, on any proctored ATI exam. It is highly recommended for any student that has struggled in passing any course throughout the nursing program to take virtual ATI. Also, any student who would like to have the additional help preparing for the NCLEX RN is encouraged to enroll and pay for the virtual ATI. Students that complete the virtual ATI with the green light have an NCLEX RN pass rate of 98%. So you will also find this information in your handbook as well. It is part of our policy as to how virtual ATI is to be handled. So you can look there as well, but this is the guidelines that we will follow. I don't want anyone to be surprised when we take that first exam that as we have a conference that you're not aware that you will be required to take this or pay for this $500 virtual ATI. So again, it's in your best interest that we make sure that you have all the tools possible to be successful in passing your boards on the first time so you can get started with your career. Simulation. Online ATI simulations may also be used to complete clinical hours if access to our clinical facilities is denied. It is not my goal that we will use simulation to complete clinical hours. It is a contingency if we do not have, if we are no longer allowed in the clinical facility. So we did simulations last year. My goal for you is to begin clinical as soon as possible. So this should be incentive for you to get started. Once we have orientation and you have paperwork in place, I will be encouraging all students to make sure that you are getting your clinical experience. Because the alternative will, if we are not able to get into clinical facilities, is that you will do simulations. Clinical evaluations. Each student is responsible for meeting clinical objectives in a satisfactory manner. The The clinical evaluation is included with the syllabus. So the student is expected to review that clinical evaluation. Make sure you know what the expectations are for clinical. If it's what you're going to be evaluated on, you need to know what that criteria is before you ever enter into the facility, so you know what it is you will be graded on. So students are expected to be present in the clinical and be prepared to be an active participant in your learning. You will be evaluated after a half of your completed clinical time, after you've completed half of your clinical time. So what does that mean? We have a total of 120 clinical hours that will be expected to be completed in the clinical area. So after 60 hours, you will, and that's going to be different for each student because it depends on your schedules are going to be individualized. So it will be up to you once you get to your halfway point that you have an evaluation done and that you have an evaluation completed at the end of your required clinical hours. So after the 120 hours, you will have your final exam or final evaluation as well. The student's going to be given satisfactory, unsatisfactory clinical grade based on attainment of those clinical objectives. The student must have final satisfactory grade in order to pass the course. Failure to meet those objectives is going to be reported as a D and result in dismissal of the program. We don't want this to happen. So again, make sure you're well prepared before you go into the clinical setting and that you have an idea of what you're going to be evaluated on, okay? This is your time to shine. We want to see that you are professional, that you are organized, that you have learning goals, that you're excited to be in that clinical area, and that you're showing your preceptor that you're interested in learning about how to be an effective nurse on that unit. Also, make sure that you have looked at your handbook. That handbook explains, of course, the grading policy. The handbook also gives you the guidelines that you need to be completing, that you need to follow in that clinical setting. How are we going to grade? Basis of the course, your points are here. So exams, the paper, and the ATI exit exam is what you're going to be graded on here. If anyone needs accommodations, contact the Center for Student Success, the Disability Services that is in Center for Student Success. You have to have a B or greater to pass the course, which is consistent with what we have used throughout the whole program. So that's nothing new. If you need help, get help early. Don't wait until we are almost done and say, oh, I need help with this. You should know at this point where your weaknesses are, what you need help with, and you should know where the facility is. If not, please do not wait long to be able to get those accommodations in place. Okay. Course communication, we will be using the learning management system, which is Canvas. And you should be checking your announcements on Canvas as well as that learning management system. LMS is the learning management system, which is Canvas, and also your email on a regular basis. For any additional course announcements, that will be posted there. So make sure you're checking it frequently. Also, make sure that you have your information up to date. Correct information, phone numbers, addresses, make sure that's all up to date in the records office. Very important for us to be able to get a hold of you. And as you're starting to graduate here, we want to make sure we have the correct information in our records office. Assignments. All assignments are on the course calendar, the due dates. Make sure that you're turning in assignments on time because you will lose 10% total points of the total points for each day that is late. It pains me to take points away for something like this. You really need to just follow the direction and you will not have additional points taken off. Same for attendance as well. That always causes me great pain to take points off. However, all of our policies are in place to prepare you to be a professional. So being on time, making sure you use the correct line of communication are two of the many things that you need to do to be professional and to be successful in the nursing profession. So the attendance policy. Each student is responsible for meeting both classroom and clinical objectives in a satisfactory manner. Classroom content is planned in sequence, and neglecting to complete remote lectures will jeopardize your ability to meet these objectives. Punctuality is important. It's quality to exercise. Tardiness disrupts everyone else. So in this case, on the day of an exam, you're going to be expected to enter Zoom meetings no later than 15 minutes prior to the beginning of the exam. So the way it's going to work for exams is we will have, Renee is going to proctor half of the course or half of the class, and I will proctor the other half. I will post which section. You will always be in that person's Zoom meeting for the exam. So I will post which section you will be in. But you will need to make sure that you are in that Zoom meeting no later than 15 minutes prior. I will have the Zoom opened a half hour before. So 30 minutes prior, I will have the Zoom meetings open. So you can come into that Zoom meeting, and I'll talk a little bit more about detail since we're talking about attendance here. Just make sure that it's no later than 15 minutes prior to the beginning of exam. If you're unable to attend, just make sure you call. Again, here's another place where you can lose points simply because you didn't follow a line of communication. So if you are sick, vomiting, of course, we don't expect you to take an exam. But you have to communicate that with your clinical instructor. So that would be me. So make sure that if it's my course, that you're letting me know. Therefore, I will be able to make sure you have the exam available. So that's going to be the case. If you miss an exam, you have to make that up before the next scheduled meeting, class meeting, which will always be on Mondays. So you must meet with the clinical instructor to arrange your makeup exam, any kind of missing exams. Alternative style exams could be given too, so we have the freedom to do that. And it will be given to you in the Center for Student Success. If you need to contact them, the information is there. You always have to bring a photo ID of yourself if you are taking an exam in the Center for Student Success. Personal electronics, this is the standard for all classes. Now, the times in which we're going to be in class is going to be for your ATI exams, as well as the ATI live, the live review, as well as it is considered in class whenever we are on Zoom taking exams. So just so that's kind of clear. So if cellular phones, pagers, or electronic communication devices are brought to class, which would be during those times I just mentioned, or to campus lab, you need to have them turned off and put away. Text messaging or using the internet on a personal electronic device will not be tolerated during class or campus lab, and the student may be asked to leave. Device use may be permitted in certain circumstances at the direction of the permission of the instructor. Apple Watches and similar devices are prohibited during exams and clinicals. Okay, so you're all adults. I like to treat you like adults. So you know what the rules are. Make sure that you're following those so I don't have to call it out. The use of YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or any kind of internet share site to display comments about tests, faculty, peers, staff, and or clients is strictly prohibited. This is about professionalism. If you have an issue, you need to take it to the person you have an issue with. We use the chain of command. And complaining to one another will not get you results. So if you're having an issue, make sure you're following the chain of command and that you are, again, being professional. I will be watching for this as well as all faculty. It is a different game now. You're getting ready to graduate. So we want to make sure that that level of professionalism is much higher now. We've always expected it, but you're going to be pushed a little further to making sure that you are maintaining professionalism this semester. Taking photos or making audio or video recordings of clients is a breach of confidentiality and may be subject to legal sanctions and will lead to program dismissal. Make sure you're following that policy in the student handbook. Now, what you all are excited to hear about is the clinical information. So this is a very exciting time for students. You've had patients that you've cared for up until this point, and you may have had 1 to 2 patients that you're caring for. And now you're going to take care of a group of patients. So this is where a lot of things really start to solidify. You start to understand more. You start to put it all together. And even though it's only 120 hours of clinical, it is amazing the growth that students have during this semester. So again, the goal is to complete 120 hours of clinical in the clinical setting. We do have simulations as our backup, but my goal for you is to make sure that all students have 120 hours in the clinical setting. So if we have to veer from that, it's, we're going to give our best effort to make sure that we obtain that goal. So the clinical, each student is responsible for meeting the clinical objectives in a satisfactory manner. Review your clinical evaluation to make sure that you know how, the expectations for clinical. Cannot say that enough. Know the evaluation. Students are expected to be present in the clinical and prepared to be an active participant in their own learning. The student will be assigned a clinical instructor who will be their point of contact. Any changes in your schedule, difficulty with access to computers within that clinical facility, or any other concerns need to be addressed with the clinical instructor. Please do not go to other clinical instructors. Go to your clinical instructor. If you're having any additional information, issues, not getting results, then you can come to me for that, since I'm coordinating the course, and I can help you with it as well. But again, chain of command is extremely important. The student is expected to develop their own weekly learning goals, which will be shared with the preceptor and the clinical instructor. This is an expectation. You should be, at the end of your clinical day, looking at and analyzing what you did well during that clinical time frame, and then what you need to work on during the next clinical time. Okay. You will meet with your clinical instructor on a weekly basis and discuss your progress and those learning goals. Did you meet those learning goals? What learning goals do you need to be working towards? So this is not just going in and doing clinical. You really need to be doing some analysis of your progress toward your goals. The student is expected to be prepared for this meeting, which is part of being prepared for clinical. Expect that your clinical instructor will be coming around and being in that clinical setting, and expect to be able to discuss that learning goal. So if you want to write that down at the beginning of the day, have that prepared to be discussed. That would be very helpful for you as well as the clinical instructor. The students who are unprepared for their clinical experience will receive an anecdotal and will not be permitted in the clinical area. This puts the students at risk for failing the course due to not meeting established course objectives. Refer to your handbook for further explanation of the policies regarding the student preparation for clinical assignments. A preceptor student contract and a preceptor qualification form that is included with the syllabus must be completed and returned to the clinical instructor by the end of the first week. Now, we know there can be certain circumstances where the preceptor may not be in that facility. That needs to be communicated with your clinical instructor. All paperwork can be given to myself or your clinical instructor. So, for example, we have some, if your clinical instructor is not a full-time faculty person, then you will want to make sure that you give that to me so we can verify all paperwork is completed, and so we are on file as being prepared for clinical. If these contracts and qualification forms are not returned on or before this time frame, the student will not be allowed to return to the clinical area, and an anecdotal will be written. So it is imperative that we get the paperwork so we can get you into the clinical area. So we have to do verification, make sure that the paperwork's filled out completely and correctly. Sometimes we have to send it back and have it completed correctly. So I'm going to explain it to you so you can explain it to your clinical preceptorship or preceptor, I'm sorry. At this point, the students will not be meeting the course objectives. So if you don't have information there, you know, you're not going to be meeting objectives. Now, at this point, nobody knows who their clinical instructor is. At this point, you will know, everyone will know. Let me just say it that way. Everyone will have know who they will be, who their clinical instructor will be, and who their preceptor will be, provided all the arrangements have been made with all of your clinical faculty. So they've got things set up during your orientation day, which was mentioned in the welcome in the announcement that was posted on Canvas. Okay, 120 hours of clinical / simulation, if we need to, are required to complete the course. All clinical time must be documented, and it needs to be signed by the preceptor and kept by the student for verification purpose using that preceptor hours earned form sheet. That form will be given to you during your orientation time by your clinical instructors. There are also additional forms outside the nursing offices upstairs as well. So they may have some downstairs as well, but we have them upstairs for sure. Students are expected to contract their clinical time with their preceptor and present it to their clinical instructor for approval. Schedules should be submitted for at least a 2-week period. Students will not schedule time during spring break, except in extenuating circumstances as determined by the clinical instructor. There really should not be any reason why you need to use spring break. You will need that break. Your clinical instructors will need that break. So only in extenuating circumstances would this be allowed. So that's between you and your clinical instructor to make that decision, but the plan is to not schedule during that time frame. Students must schedule to work a minimum of a 12-hour shift for each clinical day, except in extenuating circumstances as determined by the clinical instructor. Students must not schedule a night shift the day before class or a scheduled exam. So for example, in this case, if you are on pre-post, they don't work 12-hour shifts. That's not typical that they work a 12-hour shift, not to say they can't. But if they only work 8 hours that day, then of course that's all you're going to be able to obtain. So that's what I mean by extenuating circumstances, and you will work that out with your clinical instructor. Students are encouraged to work 2 consecutive clinical days per week to maximize your learning. You learn so much when you have 2 back-to-back clinical days. No more than 2 days should be scheduled per week, week 15, except in extenuating circumstances as determined by the clinical instructor. So we usually don't have any difficulty getting completed by week 15. This year, things are done differently than last. So with pediatrics no longer having in clinical, having actual clinical where you go to the facility, we should be able to actually function even much better this year if we're getting our preceptorship in a timely manner. If a student is unable to attend, a scheduled clinical due to an emergency, the student is responsible for calling the clinical preceptor and the clinical instructor prior to the scheduled time. This is extremely important. It's in bold for a reason. Your clinical instructor needs to know when you're in that facility. They come to see you. It is rude to not have them aware of when you are in that facility and when you are not in that facility. So it is your responsibility to make sure that you are communicating with your clinical instructor about your scheduled time and any changes in that scheduled time. In some facilities, you will also be required to inform the educational services about your schedule changes, and that we'll discuss that during clinical orientation. If that line of communication is not followed, again, this is in bold, you will receive an anecdotal for ineffective communication. So make sure that you're communicating to the appropriate people when you have any kind of change in your schedule. Communication and professionalism is the key here. The student must negotiate with their preceptor and their clinical instructor to make up all missed clinical time. Again, 120 clinical hours are required to meet the course objectives. The preceptor and the clinical instructor must know the student's clinical plans, which includes knowing when the student is in the clinical area. Okay, so again, communication. So far, what we know is you need to be a good communicator, you need to be professional, you need to mind your business and be concerned about what you're doing, because we know everyone is going to be doing something just a little bit different because we're working one-on-one with our preceptors. So just remember that. Concerned about your own needs, not everyone else's needs. Okay, so this is a standard classroom laptop and testing policy that we have in all of our courses. I'm going to go ahead and cover this information, so Renee would not need to cover this during her class time on Monday. So we'll go ahead and cover it, and then I'll interject. What I'll do is I'll interject how we're going to use it in the NADN 2400, since we are going to be all online. However, you have to know that this also applies to when we are on campus for ATI testing, as well as on campus for the live ATI review. Okay, so the goal, we want to make sure that students are they have all the technical skills that they need. They have confidence in computerized testing environments, and that helps to prepare you for the NCLEX, as well as working in the hospital setting. Just being not being technologically challenged is very helpful whenever you are in healthcare. Requirements: all students must have access to your personal laptop throughout the ADN program, and laptop specifications will be provided during the entry of the program. So everyone should know what those are. You've been using your laptops up until this point. You know how we use it in the classroom setting for test taking, as well as you can use it for class note taking. This semester during 2400, we're also going to be using your laptops for the online course. We're using the Respondus and Zoom as well, to be able to make sure that we are staying connected and that we're able to take our exams through those the various software. Our testing policy: all students' possessions all need to be put away. Backpacks, hoodies, purses, everything needs to be left in one area at the direction of the instructor. So during exams, the student will only be allowed to have their laptop, a pencil, paper, scrap paper that is provided by the instructor, and a simple calculator. Now, online, you will not have a piece of paper. What will be expected when you take your test course in ADN 2400 is that you can have a simple calculator and a whiteboard. So we will note that that whiteboard prior to taking the exam, that it is cleaned off. Okay, so it's completely, there's no information on it. The calculators, usually we provide our own. However, if you show us that you have a simple calculator, of course, you're going to be able to use your own simple calculator at home. You can't use a phone, of course, you have to use an actual calculator. So make sure you have a whiteboard and a simple calculator. So if we need those for exams that you will have that already there ready for you. So you're not scrambling at the last minute. All scrap paper, so in class with Renee, of course, all scrap paper must be labeled with the student's name and submitted to the course instructor at the completion of the exam. Students must arrive at least 15 minutes prior to all testing sessions to allow time for computer setup. I will again open up the Zoom 30 minutes ahead of time. And the way this will work is you will Zoom and show me a 360 of your environment. So you are going to show me your environment, 360 down beside you, and that you do not have any of your personal belongings in your testing space. You will also show us your whiteboard, that it is cleared off, and your simple calculator. So that's going to be part of roll call during prior to testing. It works very well. Students seem to like it last semester. You know, they didn't have trouble with getting kicked off. So I know that might be some anxiety that students are having, but we really did have good success last semester using the Zoom and the Respondus while students were testing from home. If a student arrives late to a testing session, they will not be permitted to enter the classroom. Students must contact the course instructor to arrange a makeup test. We need you to be in this, so I wouldn't wait until 15 minutes before. I would get in 30 minutes before, make sure that you are there ready to go and ready to test. Therefore, we do not have to worry about somebody coming in 5 minutes prior and having to do the 360, the whiteboard, and also checking the calculator. So again, being well prepared. Students are responsible to ensure that their laptops are fully charged and updated prior to all testing sessions. We will do, what I would suggest that you do is to make sure you trial a Zoom. So you will use your mobile device for Zoom. This is what works best. Mobile device for Zoom. So therefore, that will be placed in an area where it will be at your side, where you can see the compute. We can see you as well as the computer, So that is your hands on that computer testing. Make sure that you have Respondus downloaded prior. And then we will do a trial exam. So I just want to make sure that you're able to get in, and we will do a trial exam to make sure that everything is functioning correctly. So that way, Respondus is working well. Okay. It's the student's responsibility to have your personal LMS login and password available. Students will log into the LMS under the direction of the faculty member administering the exam. Once the exam has begun, students must remain in that LMS system. So you're gonna have to stay on Canvas. A lockdown browser, of course, Respondus is what we're gonna be using. That is required when you're testing from home. Once students have completed the exam, they should close their laptop and quietly exit the room. So with NADN 2400 and online testing, what we will have you do, we want to keep the environment quiet. So you won't, what you will do is when you're done with your test, you will send a chat So message in the chat to me, not everyone. Message in the chat to whoever is proctoring that exam, so whether it's Renee or myself, that you are done. And then once you're acknowledged, you can exit the Zoom and also leave the meeting, okay? From time to time, a testing session may be interrupted. Unforeseen events. We know power outages, things, kind of crazy things happen. So if that occurs, we'll make sure that you have, usually what happens is the system picks up back where you left off. So it saves that and you go back into the system and then you can continue to take that exam. We will make sure that if there is a malfunction at Washington State, that you're granted the amount of time lost on that exam. If there is any student in the class who has test taking needs or accommodation, make sure you take care of that early. There's no shame in asking for help. The shame is waiting too late, so we can't help you. So make sure that you have that all set up. It does not matter to us either way how this works, but we want you to be successful. In order to do that, you have to identify what your needs are and make sure that you're getting the resources that you need prior, not waiting too late. Okay, testing review. Testing feedback will be given, not determined by the instructor. This may include a verbal review of the test in the classroom. Students are not permitted to copy exam questions in any format, electronic or otherwise. This is considered fraudulent acquisition of academic materials. Students obtaining any course material, exam questions in a fraudulent manner may be dismissed from the college according to the handbook. Okay, so our ADN student handbook has this information in it. The way it will work for NADN 2400, I will have copies, hard copies of the exam in my office. So after you have tested, you can come to my office and you can review that exam, okay? All right. During the first semester only, a review may be conducted in the nursing lab with instructors present, as noted under the testing policy. Number 1, all students' possessions must be placed in the direction of the instructor. So you want to make sure we're not going to allow you to have those personal possessions whenever you're reviewing, and that includes whenever you come to my office. In general, group exam review will not be conducted, but this is at the discretion of a course instructor. Students may be permitted to sign up for individual appointments to identify areas of weakness and obtain strategies for improvement. Students utilizing their laptops for classroom note-taking should arrive to class early and allow time for computer setup. Use of computer should not hamper or interfere with the ability of the students to do your academic work. All computers must be muted before class begins. So that would be for everything, all classes. Testing as well. Okay, so on that note, as you are testing online, make sure that you are selecting a quiet location. You cannot be in the middle of the library testing because there's noise there. Make sure that you have a place that is quiet. You will not be muted, so your mute button will not be on. We will be able to hear you. So if you have dogs, cats, whatever, make sure that you lock them out of your room if that's where you're testing. So again, we do not want disruption for all students, so make sure that you account for that time frame being quiet. Okay. Under no circumstances are laptops to be used for texting, social media, gaming, and emailing or researching during class time or during classroom breaks. So again, this class, we will be on campus for that live review. I want to make sure everyone is engaged in that class, and so this will not be tolerated. Any student utilizing a laptop or a mobile device in an inappropriate manner will be excused from the class, and this will count as a classroom absence. That will be a huge problem for you if you get booted out of the live review, which is required. So just follow the rules and you should have no problem whatsoever. Please do not leave your personal belongings unattended. Washington State will not be responsible for lost, stolen, or moved items. It is the student's responsibility to keep their own property safe and secure. In general, food and drink are not permitted into the classroom. Only water in clear, closed containers is permissible. Students are encouraged to eat and drink prior to class to minimize potential damage to electronic devices, including those belonging to other students. Make a note of this. We will have a Zoom meeting at 10 a.m. on Mondays for question and answer. This will be optional. However, if you are not understanding or you are having issues and you do not come to the question and answer, I cannot help you. So it is your responsibility to make sure that your needs are met. I'm giving you opportunity at 10 a.m. for, and we will start that. Of course, I'll follow that here in just a minute. Here, let me see what day. We'll actually start that on January 25th because January 18th, of course, we will not be in class because of Martin Luther King Day. So we'll start that on January 25th, having that opportunity to come to those meetings, okay? So, complaints, issues, please come to me. Remember what the chain of command is, and remember professionalism requires that you follow that chain of command. I cannot help you if I do not know that you're having an issue, so please reach out to me and communicate with me, okay? I truly want every single one of you to be successful, and I cannot help if I do not know you're having an issue. Course outline, so this gives all the dates in which things are to be completed. Just so you have an idea of my plan. This worked very well last semester. My goal will be to post, so all of your lecture will be recorded through Zoom, okay? So for NADN 2400, all lecture will be recorded through Zoom. And my goal will be to have that posted by Friday. The week prior to when the content is scheduled. So for example, my goal will be to post by January 22nd, the first section of Nursing Today and in the Future. Okay, this will give you the flexibility to be able to complete that on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So you have that information and it helps to work with your schedule. So that's my goal. It will need to be completed by Monday at noon, okay? Because you have class at 10. So it's 10 to 12 is the class that is, this course is from 10 to 12, okay? So you will have to have it done by noon on Monday, okay? Also, exams, you will see exams are scheduled at the same time every week through Zoom and Respondus. Now remember, it's 35 questions, so it's not going to take you 2 hours to do it. So my thought was that we will be starting at 10 a.m., doing that exam. So 10, usually you have a minute per question, maybe an hour at the max if you need accommodation. So that would be 10 to 11. That would still give you an hour and a half to be able to get to your pediatric course that is going to be on campus. So I think that will give us ample time. If we see that on our first exam that it's not giving you enough time to get here, we can move that up to 9:30. So we'll just see how the very first one goes, making sure that everyone feels like they can get there in a timely manner. You may already know how long it takes you to get to campus, and you can give me that information on Monday if that's going to be an acceptable time frame. So. Okay, so we'll talk more about that. So spring break is the 8th through the 12th. Of course, no precepting during that week. You will see too, March 18th, that's when your ATI first comprehensive predictor is. I did not want to put it on the day you come back from spring break. I did not want to put it just before because it kind of tightens things up here. So you will see you will have 2 exams prior to spring break, and you have 2 exams after spring break. And then the NCLEX review is April 27th, 8th, and 9th. And again, that is planned to be on campus, provided ATI does not have any additional changes that they want to make with that. Your paper is due March 29th. And remember, if you want it reviewed, you have to have it to your clinical instructor no later than 2 weeks prior. So you will have to have it to your clinical instructor no later than March 15th if you want any kind of review of the content. I highly recommend it. And again, make sure that that draft is essentially a completed paper. So that way you get as much feedback as possible. There's no need to turn in 3 pages and expect your clinical instructor to evaluate that. That is not enough to evaluate. So it would be in your best interest to have that paper written as complete when you turn it in for a review for the draft review. Okay, so again, it's just in your best interest to make sure you're successful. If you look at week 16 here, I'm sorry. Should be scrolling here. Okay, so there's your exams. There's spring break, comp predictor, exams, comprehensive predictor, or comprehensive paper, your exams, the live review. Week 16, we will have your second comprehensive predictor in the auditorium. And you will have, I have scheduled there a practice pinning time frame. Darla Boone will be coordinating the pinning this year. We have some new simulators at the college, and I'm going to be increasing my role with those simulators. So she will be coordinating the pinning ceremony. So I'm not sure you will work with her in the planning of that ceremony. So all questions need to be directed to Darla. Guidelines for the Trends and Issues paper. Each student will submit a comprehensive scholarly paper. It addresses a current or a future global trend or issue affecting the nursing practice now or in the future. Topics for this paper must be submitted by the student in writing to the clinical instructor, and it must be approved prior to writing the paper. Do not go down a path that you think will work and not have it approved. We don't want you we want to make sure that you are on the right path, that you're not wasting your time doing something that is just not going to work. So again, make sure that you are working with your clinical instructor on that paper. Put it in writing, make sure you get the topic approved. I will also post potential topics, so kind of give you a trigger as to what you can do. It's not all inclusive. It's not something you can only pick from that list. But it'll give you an idea as you start to do some research, what topics may work and what topics may not. So my suggestion for you is to have your topic and your rubric to know that you will be able to meet all of the criteria on that rubric. It makes no sense to select a topic and know that you're not going to be able to meet the objectives. So if the student would like clarification on the content of the paper, they must inquire from their clinical instructor no later than 2 weeks prior. So that would be right after spring break. Okay, that's going to give your clinical instructor time to be able to review that, that paper. They will review your paper regarding content once. There will not be a rubric or a score sheet that's completed. The faculty will not correct your grammar and your APA. However, they may simply state in general terms that you need to work on your APA and your grammar. It is your responsibility to write this paper. So don't give it to your instructor and have your instructor fix it for you and expect that they're going to make all these corrections. It is your job to write the paper. And when you give it to your clinical instructor, they can give you feedback. You know, you need to know grammar, APA, or writing in general. If you just know that you're just not a good writer, not everybody's a good writer, we know that. We want you to seek out help. That's the idea, is that you're going to seek out help through the Center for Student Success. We also recommend another person read your paper, such as another student or another family member. So some students are very good at this. Other students are not very good at this. So if you can pull on each other's strengths and support one another, then you know, that can be very, very, very helpful. But again, seek help, start early, get approved for the topic, and make sure that you are, you know, giving that draft that you submit really needs to be almost complete when you send it to your, I would have it complete myself. And then that way your clinical instructor could give you some feedback, okay? That rubric is your grading criteria, so you need to make sure that is sitting right beside you when you're writing that paper. Also remember that scholarly papers must have supporting data. So you need to support your ideas using references and making sure that those references show where that data was retrieved. APA style is the only format that is acceptable for this paper. Students expected to follow the APA guideline that is provided by this course instructor, and I'll show you it's in here. The body of the paper must be at least 7 pages in length. The body, okay? So that means not the title page, reference pages, appendices do not count as part of the required 7. The paper should be clear, concise, and cohesive, and incorporate proper grammar and spelling. The completed paper must be in a folder, and any articles from journals and professional or government organizations must be included within the folder. No loose papers will be accepted. There's a lot of you and only us, so we want to keep it organized. We don't want to lose your papers, and it's professional to make sure that all papers are contained. The assignment is due at the beginning of class on the assigned due date. See the course calendar for that. Again, late assignments, 10% for each day that is late. We know that emergencies arise, but you have plenty of time here to get started and try to have this completed in a timely manner and to your clinical instructor. If you know that maybe you had a flat tire, somehow get it to your clinical instructor in a different manner may be necessary, but the goal is that you turn it in. It's not going to be the case. If all of you end up with a flat tire on the day that it's due, we'll know something's up. So the writing lab or the Center for Student Success should be able to connect you with somebody to help you with your writing. If I find anything out differently, I'll let you know. If you have any questions regarding the paper, see your course clinical instructor Again, your clinical instructor is the one who will be grading this paper. So you need to communicate with that clinical instructor and make sure that you get any clarifications from them. Okay. The paper must address, let me scroll down here. The paper must address the following components. Point values. You're going to have your introduction, which is 5 points. Where is the trend most acute? That's 10 points. What is causing the trend or the global issue is 10 points. Discuss how the trend will or does affect nursing is 10 points. Identify current solutions for trends and or recommendations to address the trend, that is worth 10 points, and the summary is worth 5. So all 6 of those components that we discussed is a total of 50 points. We integrate the findings using 3 current, no older than 5 years on the articles, journals, or professional government organizations, and copies need to be included with the paper. Additional points, mechanics and usage is worth 10 points. So the criteria is there. APA format is 10 points and reference list is 5 points. So all the details are there. Please read it carefully. It is 75 points. The rubric is on the next sheet here. That rubric, again, is the same thing, showing you where, this is actually what we will use to score your paper, okay, for the final paper, okay. Your paper needs to be submitted to turnitin.com. So the final, I already explained this, but the final draft needs to be put through turnitin.com, which will be through your assignments section of the course management, okay. APA guidelines. This is for you to do. Please read this and follow the directions alongside your rubric. The information's in here. Read it carefully, underline, write on it, whatever you need to do. Compare it to the draft, and then that way, the more that you have in your paper that is correct at the time you have it reviewed, the more effective communication or evaluation your clinical instructor can give you. So it's just going to help you by being prepared. So you're going to read all of this on your own. Of course, I'm not going to read all this to you. There is a nice example. Where did that go? What happened? Interesting. Okay, there we go. Just a minute to get caught up there. I was thinking we did not have it all uploaded. I couldn't imagine, but things happen. This gives you a nice example. So you see how this is bold, or this is in caps? That's what you want. This is running headed with a colon. That's what you want. So follow this example. Make sure yours looks like this, with the exception of the content, of course. But read it carefully, and it should give you what you need for that exam. Or, sorry, for that paper. All right, okay. We're almost there. Preceptorship. Again, I cannot tell you how helpful this preceptorship is to our students. The growth that you will make in the 10 days, I know it's only 10 days, and you think, oh gosh, that cannot possibly make a difference, but it truly makes a big difference. You need to be prepared to be able to get as much out of that clinical experience as possible. A preceptorship is an individualized experience where the student defines and implements a nursing role with a qualified role model. The preceptor is a registered nurse who has expertise in selecting clinical area. Yikes. I've been talking a long time here. I'll make sure. The role of the preceptor is that of a facilitator of the students' goals and objectives. The clinical learning will occur in a setting that's mutually acceptable for the student, faculty, and preceptor. The student is placed with a preceptor based on the needs of the student. The goal is for the student to be able to assimilate the information. We want you to be successful on the NCLEX RN, and we want you to be functional, a functional registered nurse when you graduate. So we want you to pass your boards. We want you to be functional. So when you get out into into your nursing career, that you are at a base level, but you are functional. So you will continue to grow. We don't profess to say that you know everything. By the time any nurse who says they know everything is very confused. We do not profess that nursing students come out of school knowing everything, but you are a safe practitioner is what our goal is, as well as what the board. The board wants you to be a basic level safe practitioner. So it's about protecting the public is what the board, that's what their role is. So if in selecting your preceptorship, this is how it works. I explained this once before. So you filled out a wish list. So that wish list, what I do with that is I look at the wish list, I see what you've actually requested, and then I go to your faculty and I verify with your faculty if your requests are reasonable. And then I make assignments from there. Med-surg, if I had med-surg, and I could give med-surg to everyone, I would definitely do that because there is so much to learn from med-surg nursing. No one should really be disappointed in any of their assignments. I mean, the assignments that you have, just remember you're doing 120 hours and not every school gets to do the preceptorship, that much precepting. So again, hopefully we will be in clinical for the whole 120 hours. And what it does for you is it helps you get socialized in that nursing role. It helps you to observe experiences within that nursing role. It helps you with reality shock. So it's one thing to have 1 to 2 patients, but another thing to have a whole group of patients on a med-surg unit. Close supervision and immediate feedback is provided. So you're one-on-one. So you don't have just one faculty to eight students. So you get closer supervision, quicker feedback. Identify your learning needs are better identified and met, the individual learning needs, and increase and your confidence. Your confidence and your competence is what we're trying to get to increase. Advantages for the preceptor, they're a source of professional stimulation. Any opportunity to demonstrate leadership and their teaching skills. The preceptors gain an affiliation with an educational institute, and they gain recognition and visibility from their peers and their supervisors for their expertise. They gain satisfaction as preceptors, fulfilling their responsibility to enhance their growth of their nursing profession. So it is very helpful for everyone. Right now, I know it's very stressful, but our students tend to do very well. That's why we want you to be professional and have your best foot forward whenever you are working with these, actually at all times during this semester, but definitely when you are working with your preceptor. Advantages of the nursing profession: mutual understanding between the education and service, and graduate nurses are better prepared for the entry-level position. Preceptor guidelines. The goal of the preceptor is to act as a facilitator for the nursing student in their progress toward meeting their learning goals, the role of the student, and and the preceptor require frequent collaboration and mutual respect as the strive for the client's needs. So we have goals to meet our client's needs, and you work cohesively with your preceptor to attain those goals. Preceptors new agility care may be provided. The qualifications, the expert clinician, this has recently changed. So we've always tried to strive to have at least 2 years of experience with our clinical or preceptors. That's recently changed, so we can have less than 2 years of experience. The way we obtain our preceptors is through the managers at the hospital setting. So they may have somebody who's a very strong nurse who's had 1.5 years of experience, and they can show that they have the expertise to be able to be a preceptor. So we do take precautions and make sure that we are checking with our managers, making sure that the preceptor is an expert clinician. Past experiences as a preceptor is preferred. Experience as preceptor for graduate nurse is recommended. They have a current license, and we do check that and validate it. That's why we have to have paperwork completed, and willingness to share their knowledge and guide the student in their decision-making and leadership skills. Understanding the focus and the objective of the course employed by the institute, which they are taking, where their experience is taking place. So this means that we cannot use travel nurses, for example. So we have to use nurses who work on that at that facility. Values education and professional and personal growth. So the role of the preceptor, they are going to meet with the faculty and student prior to your experience and share the objectives. Orient the student to the policies and procedures and facilities of the agency, and agree on the unit with the students at all, to be on the unit with the students at all times. Guiding and directing the student, socializing the student into the role, and providing insight into decision and problem-solving, decision-making solving skills. Serve as a role model for the student, identify behaviors and the student, and negotiate with the student a contract to assist in developing behaviors needed for role change, and guiding the student in seeking available learning resources. Providing feedback to the student as well as the instructor. Confer with the student to identify nursing role in the clinical setting. Assist the student with communicating and student on evaluation form, communicating problems and potential problems to the student and the instructor as soon as possible, and meets with the clinical instructor weekly to discuss their learning goals. Okay. The student's role, you need to be a self-directed learner. You need to have basic knowledge of nursing with, who may need assistance, the professional nursing role. The student is responsible for taking the initiative to identify and share learning objectives and to evaluate your own progress toward these objectives. The student-preceptor relationship requires frequent collaboration and an attitude of mutual respect to meet student learning objectives. You can perform any skill that you've been taught up until this point. We'll talk more in orientation because each facility is a little bit different. Regarding what you can do in the clinical facility. Responsible for your own learning semester. Assume responsibility for reviewing, clarifying, and following agency policies and procedures in a timely fashion. Communicate problems or potential problems to the preceptor and instructor as soon as possible. Successfully completes stated learning objectives. Utilize independence and interdependence in taking responsibility for clients in a clinical learning setting, and meeting with your clinical instructor weekly to discuss your learning goals. So those are your roles. Everyone's going to be on a different unit. You're going to be learning different things. So therefore, again, just making sure that you know what you're supposed to be doing. And if students need guidance, that they go to their clinical instructor for that guidance. The preceptor form, this is very important to make sure. Here's the key thing. Everything's pretty much self-explanatory. This is the one area where we have to make sure is accurate. So the employer, this pretty much needs to read as a resume. And if you look here, the preceptor may attach a current resume or curriculum vitae. That is a good idea if they have one. It makes this paperwork a lot easier for them. But if they fill out this form, it needs to be in order from the time in which they graduated. And it needs to read like a resume. So the key point here too is that month and year. This format is extremely important. So highlight that, mark it, make sure that that is accurate. You will get these forms also handed out to you during your orientation, and they will probably explain it to you one more time to make sure that it's filled out accurately. The contract, one of the things I want to point out here, no more than 2 12-hour clinical days per week. And also I will complete my hours prior to week 15. That is the goal. There is no set date that you cannot complete the hours prior to. That was something we did last year. I got rid of that with COVID, we don't know what's going, we want to take the opportunities when we get it. So I didn't want to put restrictions. Your clinical evaluation is pretty much the same as always, except for you will have to know, this will be individualized. So when half of your time is completed, you will complete your midterm evaluation. So after 60 hours, you'll complete your midterm evaluation. And then after your hours are completed, you will complete your final evaluation. Making sure that you are receiving a 2 or greater because receiving a 1 in any area, that's unsatisfactory and you will fail the clinical. Okay, you will be doing this clinical evaluation with your preceptor. If your preceptor would like your clinical instructor to be present whenever the evaluation is done, they can do that as well. Once your midterm is complete, you will turn it into your clinical instructor. They will make their comments and get it back to you so you can complete your final evaluation. Okay, evaluation, there it is. Make sure that you are make sure you're reading this prior to going to clinical. You can do that on your own. Another evaluation is a lab evaluation. Basically what this is I track your comprehensive predictor, your results, then your attendance for 3 days, and the results on your third or your second attempt on the comprehensive predictor. And we will have a plan. So if you are not doing well here, or if you, let's just say that you've been a reentry into the ADN program. If I have any inclination that you will need to take virtual ATI, we'll discuss it at that point. You'll already know. You'll know based on the guidelines. But we will be discussing in these when we meet for both of these about virtual ATI. The next sheet is your anecdotal. They can be positive or negative. At this point in the game, you guys should know how to follow directions, and you should know what it is that you're supposed to be doing. If you're not clear on anything, get clarification. We should not have to write anecdotals at this point in the game. However, they are here just in case we need them. Let's end strong. So, okay, the remainder is the content. The content outline, And also you will see the learner activities. This information is also already in your learning management systems. So all the details are also in Canvas, and I will show you that here in just a moment. Let me go back. Just a little overview of Canvas. Again, is very user-friendly. There's some things you may not be able to see at this point because I have to open those up. But it's very simple to use. On the left-hand side, you'll see the home button. And that gives you, right there's your recent announcements. This is how I got to the syllabus, and it's interspersed in different places here too. So there's that information. So you can work down through. This gives you the etiquette, online etiquette, again, professionalism, what we're expected to do as we are online. It also gives some discussion posts here. And any questions, there is an Ask Your Instructor that is very helpful to ask in that forum, because then all students can see, if you have a question, someone else probably has the same question. So there's that. You can get to announcements from here. Okay. And all you have to do is click on the actual, I believe it's this right here, and that will open up. You'll notice that the net learning, these are hyperlinks. So all you'd have to do is click on this and it would take you directly to net learning. And it's a little slow, but that's okay. So all of those are hyperlinks. So if you see those, I've just addressed it right in the actual announcement. So go back to announcements here. Okay, it cranks it back up. Going to modules. I want you to make note of this. Each module coincides with an exam. So make a note of that, and I'll explain here in a minute. Your additional course information, which I don't believe I have anything else in there. Once you open this up, that line of information, you can just hit next and it'll keep taking you down to the next one. So there's your course activities. This should also be the syllabus information. So we've got everything as one. There's your course textbook, gives you that information. Again, the lockdown browser, make sure you have that downloaded onto your computer, and we will test that to make sure everything's functioning. The exam, and then the grading policy. So this is all in your syllabus, but it's also here as well. Scroll down and hit next. Meet your instructor. So there's a little bit of information about me, what I've taught. There you go. Hello. That used to be a very large picture. I was thinking that was scary. So we figured out how to make that much smaller so you weren't terrified. Okay, so a little information. This is the Ask the Instructor. So you can just hit reply, and whenever you hit reply, you'll fill out your information here and post that reply. And therefore, I can respond in that area. Also, other students will be able to get their questions answered as well. Okay. All right. If I keep going, it should take me to module 1. So each of these modules, and I'm only going to go through one of these modules. When I say that the modules are, remember that your modules are connected to your exam. That means module 1 is exam 1. So all the content in module 1 is what you will need to know for exam 1. So please make a note of that, because it makes it very easy and clear so you know what to study for that exam. So when I get through here, you'll have a learning objectives, which these are in your syllabus as well. Okay, it's just broken down into smaller. Here are the required resources. I will also have, once I get your lecture completed and your notes ready, they will be uploaded under the required resources. Okay. And then these are optional resources. So if I find anything that's interesting that, you know, might help to enhance your learning, I will put it in this place. And then we'll move on to module 2. So it continues with all the 4 modules, and the content is broke up accordingly. Left-hand column, of course, these are your quizzes, which are not open at this point. Discussions, which are there. You can get to ask your instructor on that one. Your grades will be here. Chat, if you see that other people are online, I believe you can actually click on it and chat with them. When you get ready to test, your Zoom meeting will be available under Zoom. And what you will see here will be the Zoom meeting will be there that you can click on, and what it will say in the heading will be Renee's group or Trisha's group. So that way it's very clear which one that you need to go into after you get your assigned section. So you'll know which one. Both of ours will be up there, but after you get into your assigned section, you'll know which Zoom to attend. Google Drive. If I have anything to share, I'll put it in there. Okay. Collaborations, which I don't have any of that. Okay, and that's pretty much it. The last was people, so it's how to get in contact with people. So I will be seeing everybody on Monday. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I will be at the beginning of your NADN your pediatric class 2330 class to see if there's any clarifications or questions that you might have. I look forward to working with all of you. It's a very exciting semester. We just need to stay focused and not develop that senioritis, because we have a lot to do. We want you to be successful, and definitely want you to stay focused. See you on Monday.